just watched Mulholland Drive.
Yes. Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it, and it's pretty shocking because the first time that I watched it, I completely hated it.
You hated it?
Yeah, the first time that I ever watched it, I was like, I hate this movie. I think this is like a really fucked up movie. Yeah. Yeah. And as I was just saying to you, I feel like I've had kind of two kinds of preparation for this revisiting, of like points of reference that help me understand what's going on intellectually, but then also personal psychological growth that like lets me go there in a way that I couldn't before. And
like the nightmare.
Yes.
Embracing the tar demon.
Yes, embracing the tar demon.
And then we persisted in watching this movie, which was a symbol of embracing the tar demon.
Literally, yes. So what I was telling Alex this morning was that I've had this nightmare in which I confront myself in the shadow form, like fear or something, and she's like dripping with tar and this black figure, and she's screaming, and it was like only a flash at first, which is just how it happens with a similar figure in the film, where he goes behind a diner.
Just a flash of that hobo monster is enough to make him pass out.
Yeah. And then...
And for you, it's just a flash that you could handle before you dissociated.
Exactly. And then I had to like consciously be like, no, we're going in. And that's sort of how it happens in this movie too, where you kind of see it again, and then you like completely enter its space. Like it's not popping out at you. You go to it and see it and like see what it has to show you.
And the whole process of reactive escapism has to occur before the dreamer is ready to walk into the place that tar demon has to show.
Exactly,
Which in the movie's case is the last 25 minutes. Is the space that monster represents.
And I think in that last 25 minutes is contained this scene of showing up.
Don't mind me, I'm going to be constantly looking at these things.
Okay, the scene of showing up to like the engagement party, essentially, that's part of that. And it's so striking to me that like throughout the film, there are all of these like very surreal, strange things that happen, like very high theatrics, like, and then that scene is in some ways the most normal thing that happens. It's just kind of like awkward social interactions in this party setting.
Yes.
And yet it's the most disturbing scene of the film. It's not the murders, not the suicide, but like the way that it feels like everyone is like sinisterly plotting against her, and everyone, it's like the judgment that they seem to be implicitly casting upon her, and even like the tapping of the hand as if that, oh God, and that tapping hand is just like in Lost Highway.
It is, but it's okay. It's okay.
Oh my God.
And each tap of the hand is the toll of the death bell.
Oh God, yeah. But the way that they managed to make this laughing so sinister between like the couple, and then that's mirrored by the sinister laugh of Kesher and Camilla Rhodes when they are announcing their engagement, and it's almost as if they're like plotting, like their engagement is like her death sentence. I mean, in some ways it is. And then it's just like the old people laughing at the beginning of the movie when they get in car.
Yeah, laughing so much it can't be anything but sinister.
Exactly, yeah.
And the engagement party, it is the most casual, normal scene. It's the highest amount of discomfort that the directors managed to transmit yet to the audience, using relatability, basically. You know how it feels to be suffering at a celebratory event.
Yeah.
And the music itself was like mixed a little higher than normal, and this like asinine, like sweet, like casual music.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, but like purposely music just to highlight how grotesque the inner situation is.
Yeah. And then the one, like, throwing in something so odd is when the other actress girl comes up and kisses Camilla. And, like, the intense amount of the dark lipstick against her pink lipstick, it's just like, wow,
He has a way of picking his battles, David Lynch does, of what he's specifically trying to express with a given sequence.
Yeah.
And it's very simple, any given statement he's making. But once he's picked, this is the statement of these next few seconds of cuts, then like every single thing has to reinforce that statement.
Right.
Like the lipstick has to stick on the waitress's lips.
Yeah.
It's like every single thing has to reinforce the point of these few seconds.
Is it's the same actress that plays the actress and the waitress?
No, I was just kind of loosely suddenly thinking she was a waitress at the party.
Yeah, it does kind of feel that way. And there is, what's happening is like the Diane character is seeing that as a version of herself that she would like to be but can't be. And
it's the completion of the knife that her ex is driving in.
Right.
Because it's only half heartbreak and it's only half betrayal to be marrying a man.
Yeah.
But then she goes the extra 9 yards to show that she's also in love with a woman on the side. So like even the lesbian side of sensuality is completely closed off.
Yeah.
What about coming from Lost Highway? What kind of stuff did you see?
So, yeah, it almost feels like...
that carries over.
Yeah.
So there's a few things to my mind
that
carry over.
Well, definitely just the basic thing that we've been talking about of the changing personas. That seems really clear. And then I would say the blue light showing the moments of supernatural.
Right.
Yeah.
He changes in the prison cell. He's changed to a new human by the blue light.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I have notes about this. What did you find?
About Lost Highway? Well, there's a circling around kind of effect where it starts in Mulholland Drive with her being driven by mysterious men stopping at the wrong spot on the route.
Right.
And then it ends with the other girl being driven by mysterious men.
Yeah.
To stop at that route. And the whole thing is a route back to that stretch of road.
Right. Yes, I totally agree. I think that was exciting to me because I think I always fear that, like, by repeating myself or, saying something obvious, overdoing a theme, it'll become redundant and boring. But when I experience it done well from an artist, director, musician, it's like, it's just so good. It's like to just like expand into this idea and keep playing with it and turning it over and experiencing it in different ways.
It can highlight everything that's changed when it's done right.
Right.
It can highlight everything that's changed in you and in the story since the last time that motif recurred.
Yeah.
Lost Highway, you can see his whole journey into becoming a mechanic in The Lost Highway as an emotional knee-jerk dissociation from murdering his wife.
Okay.
And he's sent into a psychotic state of literally being someone else until he can circle back around to a full awareness of what he's done.
Okay.
So you can read Mulholland Drive the same way. She's murdered her lover and she's sent into a psychotic break where she has this entire dream of dissociation and dream fulfillment and getting her lover as this pliable amnesiac doll.
Like, I don't even know who I am. Well, I'll handle that for you.
I'll make you.
Oh yeah, and then she tells her like, well, I know what you have to do to change her image and her identity, but let me do it for you. And it's not this forceful thing like in Vertigo where it's so disturbing to see it. It's like, oh, I'll do it for you. I'll take care of you. And it's like, oh, what a saint, what an angel. Yeah. Naomi Watts is Betty, and the other girl is Rita. Makes me think a lot of Persona, the way that Ingmar Bergman's film Persona. The way that Rita is like lounging like this beautiful femme fatale, dramatic figure, and Naomi Watts is kind of like eagerly like getting the door and like running around and like, oh, let's do this. Like, oh, maybe we'll try calling them and being different people. And she's like really the polarity that I was seeing, and then the way that they turn into each other. That's very similar to what happens in that movie. And the fascination with not only like changing costume, but literally being actresses. Yeah. And that like getting lost in the dream world of Hollywood is really fun. And it makes me think about like...
I'm sure it's a defense mechanism psychologically that you probably see in Hollywood a lot. Yeah. In your community around you. Where a given person will deal with a given amount of trauma by donning costumes, taking roles.
Yeah. I think that must be just a extreme version of something that's happening in our world all the time as well.
I had the question running of what can the nightmare teach me? And the first immediate answer, and then I didn't get any answers from the film for a while after that, was the diner dream that ended with the hobo monster. Yeah. That was a very like potent symbol because he walks up to it. He wants to get rid of that terrible feeling. Yeah. And he knows its source. Yeah. And so he gets a friend to help him walk up to it. And another answer I got of what can this nightmare teach me was comparing how Lynch behaved in his nightmare versus how Diane Selwyn behaved in her nightmare. Yeah. And it boils down to channel it creatively. Yeah. Or you lose.
Because Lynch was experiencing basically a parallel nightmare to what she was experiencing. Like his funding was taken away, so he couldn't turn it into the series he wanted. And she was being not cast in starring roles.
It was a bad situation.
Just generally.
They were both in bad situations. David Lynch made a movie about it. Mm-hmm. Diane Selwyn murdered a chick about it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, the world turns upside down, and you can hold on to resistance and resentment to the point of destruction.
Yes.
And destroying the people and the bridges to people around you.
Yeah.
And so that was Diane's reaction. And David Lynch's reaction was first acceptance. The TV pilot he filmed got tanked, so he just like let it go to the ground. And from that point of acceptance, failure, he found funding. He found the idea to make it into a movie. He found within himself the inspiration of what to do with the next half of the movie.
Yeah, right.
That would then turn it from a TV pilot into a self-contained story.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it was a nightmare. And he channeled it.
Going back to the diner scene, I'm not sure it answers the question of like what a nightmare gives you exactly. At least in that first contained vignette. It's like he experiences the face that he doesn't want to experience, but what does it give him? It gives us the story? Is that kind of...
Well, that's for each person to discover for themselves what the answer is. The universal is whether you walk up to it voluntarily or not. That's what determines your success once you're in there.
Right. I guess I'm just wondering, did you read it as like he was successful because he did it, or he was unsuccessful because he couldn't face it for longer? Like,
I'd say in his exact little vignette within the film, the thing fucking killed him.
Yeah.
But that's because it was the start of the movie. And it's just demonstrating the power of this repressed violation.
Yeah.
And the start of the movie is not the time for resolutions.
Right.
I'd say what the answer is in what David Lynch did. Mm-hmm. He walked up to the disaster and harnessed it.
Right.
And it's obvious culturally that Mulholland Drive is one of his best films and one of the best films.
And now I like it, so that's good.
Yeah. And it's on the Criterion collection.
Yeah. So, but that makes me think of what's happening with Kesher.
The director character.
Yeah, the director character.
Adam Kesher.
Yeah, I was talking about how he, when all the shit goes down in his meeting, he's told, this is not your movie anymore. And power is taken away from him in that moment. And he's driving home, and his secretary, Cynthia, is on the phone with him saying, like, you got to go back in there. You got to meet with them. She's trying to get him to return to the problem and, like, keep engaging it. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, fuck this, I'm going home. Mm-hmm. And at home, he just finds that, you know, his wife is cheating on him and everything's terrible. Mm-hmm. And then things only get worse from there. Mm-hmm. And then he calls Cynthia voluntarily. And then, notably, like, her image is actually shown on the screen. We get to see her. He's asking her what to do. She's telling him what to do. She's like, she's directing him now. Uh-huh. And
before she was just a voice on the phone that he was telling her,
like, fuck off, basically.
To fuck off.
Yeah.
And then her re-entry was she was pictured and shot, and she was telling him what to do.
Yes, and he was, like, asking her and grateful for her advice, and then he goes and does what she suggests, and he meets the cowboy, who I think is, like, I'd be curious to hear your reading of it, but I just found that interesting because I imagine that for a Hollywood director, like, a cowboy is a very important archetypal male figure and sort of like a cowboy is to a Hollywood director what like a princess is to me or something, right? It's like, they will give me the wisdom, you know?
Yes.
And the cowboy is like, what's your attitude about life? Like, your attitude about life is bad, and that's why bad things are happening to you. And he's really not engaged in the moment and kind of just dismissive and wants to get it over with. And he is pulled into being like more engaged in the moment, and it seems like an obvious parallel with what must have been happening within Lynch himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a real ass situation in both of those cases. Mm-hmm. And the cowboy was this stern, tough love figure of masculinity, of making you face reality on reality's terms.
Exactly, yeah.
And he doesn't mean you harm. Is a neutral figure. Mm-hmm. Like, it's clear, even though he's apparently helping the mafia figures carry out their will, that's besides the point.
Right.
He's helping the director see you're in a bad situation.
Yeah.
The difference between success and failure isn't in changing the situation.
Right.
It's in whether you walk up to it or walk away from it.
And so then that fact of him being like in league with the mafia characters that the director is supposedly at odds with, it's like kind of reorienting a sense of that people aren't necessarily in opposition, and that these, maybe these are part of his dream, and he's like internally conflicted. Mm-hmm. And these characters are pieces of himself that are in conflict rather than like, him against some impossible force.
And you can read his arc as continuing into the final act as a success story.
Right.
Once he accepted what was happening, then he met the love of his life. Mm-hmm. And had a successful movie, and
although then she was murdered.
Of course, she was murdered.
Yeah.
Do you have this imagery in your head of different snapshots that are sexually different dynamics, and what are those?
Totally. So she is completely naked, and they're in this bed, and they're very it's very tender, and they it's very romantic.
That's the first time you see Laura's titties.
Yeah.
Both of their titties.
Yeah. And then later, they're both in shorts or something, and it's really raw. And there's an aggression between them, and
there's rock music playing in the background.
Okay, yeah. And Naomi Watts' hair is more wild and edgy looking and not all curled like a little princess. And then she's aggressive with the Rita, the character.
She tries to physically dominate her.
Yeah. And then later on she's alone, masturbating, and it's almost the same with herself. It's very grotesque.
She's trying to physically dominate herself into changing reality.
Yeah.
She's complete, she's rejecting reality by thinking she can fantasize about her lover.
Yeah. Okay.
Then when she's not getting wet and coming, she's rejecting reality even further and starts hitting herself.
Yeah. And so rejection of reality and illusion. And then I want to branch off into at the Silencio Theater, the illusion is ostensibly shattered. I'm just reading my note here. I'm trying to...
Go for it.
So the illusion is shattered when the woman that's singing like so beautifully, she faints, and they've been like having this really emotional experience, but then
you see that the performance was an illusion.
Yeah. And yet and you would think that would kind of like shock them into like out of the state that they're in, but instead it takes them deeper, and that's when she opens the purse and pulls out the box, and it just takes you further in to this strange dream world, which I think is, I don't know that that's something I've seen very much of. Like usually there's not that like shattering of illusion leading to further like rabbit holes.
Well, you can't wake up until you're ready to wake up.
Yeah.
And no one outside of you, no amount of shock treatment on the outside can get you to face your problems if you're not ready to face them.
Yeah.
Psychologically, you take those cues and then adjust your own momentum of creating illusions to get closer and closer and closer to your needed wake-up moment. So the box was like, yeah, they see that the performance is an illusion, but it's not enough to see it. You have to make that reality in your own terms. You have to write the letter to yourself to drive the message home.
Yeah.
So that's what like finding the box in her own purse was about.
Yeah.
It's a personal realization that's necessary.
Yeah, coming from herself. Yeah.
Yeah. The director was obviously in a complete rejection of reality too, in his whole character arc, and he, like every reaction was a reaction of rejection, of rejecting what was happening. Yes. The mafia people come, he trashes the mafia people's car. His wife is sleeping with him, he tries to hurt his wife. Yeah.
And even, I'm just so interested in like his reaction to that cheating moment is like not even, like he doesn't say anything. He's like at once trying to be stoic and like starts messing up her jewelry and then does like start hurting her. But there's like, it's like this denial of reaction that leads to like a much more
he's so calm because he's completely dissociated,
right? Yeah, which just pushes it like into a more violent direction or something. I think
when you dissociate from reality, it's still going to happen, but it's going to explode out in distorted manner. And it's the hardest thing in the world to grasp that fire that's burning you and direct it towards something that can be creative, lest it destroy things. But again, if you walk up to it instead of away from it, then you at least have the agency to direct it, if not to get away from feeling pain.
Wow. Yeah.
I had so what I liked about seeing the director's moves was how complete the situation was. And this is the kind of economy of storytelling you have to resort to tell effective movie stories. You have to use archetypes and stereotypes, and everything has to be like the stereotype of itself. Like he's dressed like a director. He acts like a director. He's driving a car that makes him look even more like a director.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's the director is put in the upside down. That's the scenario. That's the story element.
Yeah.
He is out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so it tells that story completely. And it doesn't hedge it and make it go like, well, he's in a bad place, but he has this going for him and that, and maybe he'll pull through. Just for the sake of economy of storytelling, it's just complete statements only. He's a director. Everything is serving to hammer that home.
Right.
He's in a fucking nightmare. Everything is serving to hammer that home.
Yeah, right.
And that's the point of him coming home.
Yeah.
Is his wife is cheating on him. His home,
the opposite of the Odyssey journey. Yeah.
His home is not even his home.
Yeah.
He is nowhere. He has nothing. He has no one. He has no money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just simple. That's keeping your storytelling clean and simple. And a good director does that. It doesn't waste any time. Just like gives you the full blow of exactly what this moment is trying to say.
Yeah.
And then moves to the next thing.
Right.
Which is another like full, clear statement.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I agree in that section of Kesher's story, but I guess once it gets into the like Act 2, what has happened? I guess like in Act 1 when he sees Naomi Watts, he like falls in love with her, and that's sort of satisfying the like he falls in love with Betty, and then that satisfies Diane's fantasy of kind of having control over all of these people that seem to be like plotting against her, maybe.
Yeah.
But the jump from, because it feels like we can read it as like his narrative moves like
from there without a hitch.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens with Betty's story. It does not progress linearly after that box opens. So you're...
Well, I guess I'm struggling with like, it seems like it should move from there for him without a hitch, but it doesn't quite, because now his lead actress is someone else that the Mafia didn't recommend, and we know that they did recommend this girl because she's still in these scenes. Like, how did he get from being so powerless to now he has the lady of his dreams, the Mafia's like at his dinner party, like... He's back on top of things.
Well, Camilla Rhodes is the star of his movie.
Right. And how did he get to make that decision?
Well, you could still read the director's arc as just linear. It's just...
a different movie.
It's just a different actress that's Camilla Rhodes. But you could still imaginatively see that he was forced to pick Camilla Rhodes.
Yes, I see. I forgot that was the name of... Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I imagine when I said like the storytelling beats were so clear, and that's a crucial talent a director needs to have. Yeah. Is keep everything as simple as possible, because there's so many moving parts, and every single moment you have to express. The movie shows it for you. There's 100 fucking people just moving around, waiting for you to tell them what to do. Yeah. And so I imagine I said, like, it's so simple, like, it's so clear. And then you're like, well, it's Mulholland Drive. It's not the most simple movie. Right. But beat for beat, it was.
That's true, yeah.
Even in the last 25 minutes, when you're trying to catch up, like, the names are different, the people are different. Right. The power dynamics are different. Right. Each scene is completely almost overacted in how clear the impact of each moment is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like, you know exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm. Like, she's pouring coffee. She has a daydream of seeing her old lover. Mm-hmm. She's in a really bad place. Yeah. Scene end. Mm-hmm. She has her lover's at the door. She's fighting with her. Mm-hmm. I don't want to make it easy for you. It wasn't easy for me. Yeah. Like, every single moment was still, like, really fucking, like, stereotypical Hollywood moments.
Right. Yeah.
Like, the entire movie.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single moment that was, well, okay.
The people dancing out of the box, that's like the only thing that happens that's weird and surreal and not...
The diner dream in totality was pretty Lynchy, and the suicide scene. Yeah. That's not something you see every day. But every single other, like 85% at least of that movie was completely constructed out of Hollywood stereotypes.
That's right. Like, he literally could have maybe, like, copied and pasted if he needed to.
Whoa. What a project that would be.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because that's what was so bewildering to me the first time that I watched it. Like, okay, am I watching...
Is this like a soap opera? Is this a joke of itself?
Am I watching? Yeah, and that's also like, what does David Lynch like, and what is he making fun of? You know? Yeah. I can't. I'm not quite sure. Does he love like the like blonde, like naive woman, or is he like completely cynical about her? Both, I think.
My read on it is that he fucking loves everything.
Yeah.
He loves everything about Hollywood. Yeah. He loves every character.
He loves every archetype.
And every character trope.
Yeah. And he likes the bad things about them. And he wants to explore those bad things too.
Well, I'm not sure he likes them, but...
Well, yeah.
He's willing to make them work for him.
He enjoys, exploring them in his movies. Yeah.
Yes. But, well, no, yeah, he even likes those things, like referring to notes I've seen of his feelings about Lost Highway, where a lot of his work there was simply based on a love of darkness, like the visual aesthetic of darkness in a shot, and how to put different kinds of darkness in a room.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's making me think about how we talked about playing with light in like Metropolis, and then this film Mulholland Drive ending with like the like black like hobo figure is the first frame, and then laid over that is these images of Naomi Watts as Betty, like laughing and dancing, and she's like almost like absurdly glowing white. Yeah, the naive, and you get this disturbing sensation that they are one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a way in which you can highlight their connection, and some alchemical principle that depends on you as the creator, creating a context in which those things can coexist. What we see on screen is a tragedy. You can put this movie in that genre of tragedy. For David Lynch, it was flawless victory.
Yeah.
Because of how he treated the tragedy in his own life that movie represented.
Yeah.
Then for Diane Selwyn, for Naomi Watts, flawless victory.
Right.
By her ability to be Betty and Diane Selwyn.
Yes.
She did that Black Swan move.
Yes, exactly.
Where her ability to fully be the innocent white princess was only taken to the end zone and made completely valid and real by her ability to be the darkest figure of death walking.
Yes.
And
does she play that character? Like, is she the person that's behind the makeup for the, like, dark hobo figure?
No.
Okay.
No,
just wondering.
That's some lady.
Some person. Okay.
But her is Diane Selwyn.
Yes.
She's the inverse of the innocent actress.
Yes.
She's the vengeful, hateful, poison-filled demon.
So that's reminding me of
and that's like the start of Naomi Watts' career.
Is it?
Yes, that's her breakout role.
Good for her. It's reminding me of the, like, what is the place of tragedy in the romantic mind question, and that just seems so obviously it, and that it's like you harness tragedy in a raw state through an artistic power, and that transforms the experience of tragedy itself.
Artistic is the key thing there.
Yeah, right.
Because there is no map for what you're experiencing and how to transmute your unique suffering into gold.
Right.
There's no map for that.
Yeah.
You have to be an artist. You have to create a new world where that adds to a greater harmony. And that's the romantic mind functioning, is what world ought to exist now that I'm in the underworld and the worst thing has happened. What should the world be? Well, the world should be a situation in which this adds to an even more glorious symphony than if it hadn't happened. And so then you persist in a romantic vision of going, that world doesn't exist, and I must create that world. Because the difference is whether suffering is senseless or whether I am an alchemical node. So we started it thinking in your camp, we were thinking of this is a way of stress testing your good mood.
Oh yeah, that's right, yeah.
And didn't anything happen since then?
Yeah, well, I said this sort of at the beginning, but I've been really... I watched this movie the first time after probably at that point in my life, like kind of directly following my biggest confrontation with like the shadow side of myself. And I think at the time I was just so not prepared to deal with that. So it was interesting to watch it this time and be like, okay, I've made what feels like significant progress. Like I can completely see how all of these personas throughout, how I engage with each of them, or how they kind of reflect my own personas. And I mean, literally that nightmare of the dark figure is part of that. But I guess...
And you were highlighting a slight anxiety of a sort of fragility around how you thought about being in this good mood.
Right, yeah.
And then I'd say that the good mood, your fear would be saying this good mood is happening in spite of these nightmarish under things.
Right.
And the attitude of the creator that David Lynch is modeling for us is that good mood is happening because of how you reacted to your tar monster.
And so I almost feel like in doing this, like, I almost feel like way more affirmed, like, oh, all of that good mood is coming from like the fact of continuing to show up to various parts of my life that are like at times intimidating to me or feel confronting like potential weakness or fear, and engaging that, and maybe not necessarily coming out triumphant, but like trying, and the fact of practicing that is affirming in itself.
Yeah. Well, something that happens with the human is failure. It fails to kill the human.
Right.
The human somehow comes back.
Yeah.
Like, you get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And suddenly, like, there's a new day.
Totally. Yeah, I love this image of like being refined, like in a sand tumbler, that could feel like being like brutalized or something, but instead it just like refines the core till it's like glowing, and that I guess the narrative around us is that we're in like this really horrible time and everything is shit, and I can't speak for other people, but the way that what's happening has affected my life is that it's made me strengthen what matters to me, and it's been really, really good for me.
Same.
Yeah,
and that's not an issue of privilege. That's an issue of responsibility. And acting with agency or not. The thing in the sand tumbler just gets refined. The human in the sand tumbler has free will. So they must choose whether that's going to be an ennobling, refining process or not.
Right. But choosing to see it that way.
Mm-hmm. Choosing to react to it as if it is that way. I definitely... My tar monster was Naomi Watts' character.
Okay.
And Diane Selwyn.
Okay.
And I remember the first time I watched this, I understood something about suicide from watching it. That the old people coming into our home were not real.
Right.
You understand, you grant that. Mm-hmm. It was a nightmare.
Right.
The fact that she got a gun out and shot herself was a physical result of that nightmare.
Yeah.
And she was reaping her own karma. Like, you saw all the steps that led up to her doing that.
Right.
Yet the actual moment was not in her control. That was a passive surrender.
Yeah.
That was not an active decision. Mm-hmm. And when I first watched this movie, that made me understand something about suicidal moods. That the actual act is not something one chooses.
Yes.
At least not, it wouldn't be for me.
Right.
It would be like that.
Yeah.
It'd be something, it'd be a passive knee-jerk reaction. Mm-hmm. And it might even literally be an accident. That wasn't really an accident. It was the inevitable sum of building bad habits to an inevitable result.
Right.
And so that's been a context of low points in my life. Mm-hmm. Like setting milestones for myself. when there's a suicidal mood happening.
Yeah.
Understanding the different milestones of that swing.
Okay.
And understanding like, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
This is where it happens.
Yeah.
And in those moments, just persisting.
Yeah.
Just abiding.
Yeah.
Watching the thing happen.
Yeah.
And the healing context that allows me to grow through such experiences is the cellular body thing I said earlier off camera.
Say it again.
That the cells in your body are constantly coming into life and dying.
Yes.
And selves in your psyche
are
constantly coming into new life and dying. And so when you're depressed, there is a way to read it such that you are presiding over the death of a part of your psyche. And raging against that can be destructive. Raging against the deathbed part of it can look like, or denying that there's a part of you that's low can look like suicide.
Right.
Like you can't accept failure in that,
or like anxiety
in that given area of your life. So like you cut off that part of your life or your life itself. But the healing understanding is that parts of you die and new things come up from within you all the time. And so death happens. You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to cut off parts of yourself or cut off relationships of your life. You can just enact an attitude of pacifism and affirmation of your experience, and these things just naturally, gracefully settle into sleep, rather.
So I was talking about illusion earlier, and the way that the confrontation of illusion takes them further into something rather than shattering. But Silencio as the site of illusion making is really beautiful. Just they go there at 2 a.m. and they go there because of Rita talking in her sleep and saying the name of this place, and then they know they have to go there. And it's, I think, probably like the most ornate looking set in the movie. It's very magical looking, and you're just listening to a music recording. That's the entire gimmick of the place. They're just playing music, and there's no band, and that's it. But somehow that's magical. And the man that's standing on the stage, like walking you through this experience, everything he's saying isn't particularly noteworthy to me. I mean, I'd be curious to know what you think, but like those lines, there is no band, like this is an illusion. That's fine that he said that, but the way that he delivers it and like the force that he is there is like so much bigger than anything he's saying or anything that he's like actually doing. And I found that really curious.
Well, no given moment of Mulholland Drive is that noteworthy.
Yeah.
Every single moment is so stereotypical you can't tell if it's making fun of itself or not.
Right.
But it's the way the thing is arranged.
Yeah.
And it's the way that it's a story told with complete conviction that gives it its power.
Yeah.
Not that any given isolated statement of it
right.
is a noteworthy statement.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And it's, again, that's a matter of simplicity to hold a maximum of freely moving parts simultaneously. Right. It's not the fact of what he's saying. It's not even the fact that he's saying it in a really compelling way.
Right.
It's the fact that you've been drawn there, and the actresses have been drawn there, and they're there at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And there's a murder that they just discovered.
Yeah.
And they are becoming each other.
Yeah.
The further into their relationship they go.
Right.
And they just had sex. And they just had sex for the first time, which that's a very relatable experience. That the first night you're asleep next to a person, the first time you fuck them is like, I've had some weird fucking dreams.
Yeah, totally.
In those situations.
Yeah, totally.
So it's not anything he's saying, it's the place you're being held in as an audience member. Each individual aspect that I just laid out is such a simple thing in itself that it can stay in your short-term memory.
Yeah.
And bounce around against all the other things.
Yeah.
And create a Gestalt experience.
Yeah, that I was gonna go back to they've just had sex for the first time, and that happens right after Betty makes Rita look like her, like blonde, and they look so similar, and then Rita takes off the wig and there's polarity between them again, but then, like, yeah, they have sex and it's, yeah, they're a little bit the same person again, and they go to the theater and she's in the blonde wig again and they look so similar. And it feels reflective of that beginning scene where Rita admits that she doesn't know who she is. I was talking to you earlier about how that reminds me of the scene in Through the Looking Glass where Alice is walking through a forest and she forgets who she is, and then she meets a little deer who doesn't know what it is, and they walk together holding each other, and they're very afraid and unaware of who or what they are. And then as soon as they reach a clearing, they're no longer in the forest, the deer knows what it is and runs away, because deers aren't supposed to be nestled up next to humans. And that image is just so striking to me from Alice, because I think that that's like the feeling that one has after in that moment with someone, in that personal relationship kind of moment. It's like, oh God.
Like coming...
Like, wait, I know who I am. Well, who are you? What's, Like
waking up to some...
To, like, separation, like identity and, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a knee-jerk, like, whoa.
Yeah.
Pushing this sameness away
right.
as your oneness, your individuality reasserts itself.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I did think in passing a couple times of archetypal similarities to Ade and me, where the longer, as the relationship is stretched on, there's like shifting of identities and stamping of identities on each other.
Interesting.
And occasional existential flailing of loss of identity.
Who am I? Who are you? Weird. Yeah.
And occasional like self-awareness of the arbitrary nature
of identity, in a way.
In the situation of our specific dynamic, where like it's arbitrary that I'm the leader and he's the passive one.
Yeah.
That's a like a handy tool to use.
Right.
But
to create a structure.
But arbitrary to the reality of what's happening.
Right.
Which is much more a dance.
Yeah.
With osmosis of parts coming back and forth.
Yeah.
And the roles are like handy, but like put on and taken off at will.
Yeah.
Just a great fucking director, man. So good.
Oh God. The Lynch Club.
Yeah. I wrote towards the bottom of the page of a list of things that make the anatomy of a Lynch scene.
Okay. Yeah, let's hear it.
Time.
I was thinking about that too.
Lots of time.
Yeah.
Freely moving parts that collide while remaining essentially themselves.
Mm.
And just time to watch those freely moving parts be themselves in the same room together.
Yeah. That's cool.
In the boardroom scene where the director is being confronted with the mafia guy's ultimatum that he has to hire Camilla Rhodes as the lead actress.
Yeah.
It's a scene that goes on for a while. A lot of things happen, but each person remains completely themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you're the director who doesn't know what's going on. You're the guy telling him, you're the middleman between him and the mafia.
Yeah.
You're the assistant to the middleman to the mafia.
Oh my God.
You're the guy who just like delivers ultimatums. You're the guy who like needs his just brow and like is really angry.
Oh right, yeah. You're the guy who spits out espresso.
And then like as the scene heats up, what makes it a successful scene is that all the director does is keep being himself.
Right,
but
everyone
louder.
just gets more themselves.
He just goes, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
And the mafia guy just keeps going, "This is the girl. This is the girl." He just starts repeating that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I was really struck in that scene by like how much there was like so much male power in this room around this table. And all of them were like really needed each other and really needed each other to do specific things. And none of them would budge. And I just had this sensation of like, this is what like before war looks like, you know, like this is, we are trying to collaborate. We're trying to come to an agreement, and we're reaching the edge of where agreements can be made and moving into like force. And the spitting out the espresso is like the moment where it moves from like some level of like politeness and decency and civilizedness to like now it's getting physical. And it didn't even come to like touching, but just the disrespect of that was like such an interesting, strange scene.
I loved the espresso thing so much.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Like, it was the punctuation. They were leading up to it by the furrowed brow guy and the director, just their eyes, like cut to his eyes, cut to his eyes. And then director's eyes move to look at the espresso guy. Yeah. And it's the espresso guy. And then it's like, who's going to establish dominance?
Right.
And spitting the espresso out is what establishes dominance.
Which just seems so completely not what I would ever expect. Like, it's so out there. It's just beyond reason.
But you completely understand what's meant by it.
Right.
He's establishing his, like, I'm in control here.
I can just do this. Yeah. I will be the force of chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We can choose from here to go into Black Swan.
Yeah.
If we want. Mm-hmm. And
that could be fun.
Continue the multiplicity of female persona.
My other thought is to do Ingmar Bergman because I like to provide the historical element to this selection.
Yes.
But I think either one would be really fun. Yeah.
Cool.
I just saw The Fountain, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I really enjoyed watching it. So yes, I think ultimately it was good. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.